You hear me? Mint it. Okay, I can hear you now. Do you want to proceed or you want me to read the questions from the Zoom chat? So you want me to read the questions? All right, okay. Let me go ahead and start with the first one. So, hold on just a second, please. What's my projected questions, Laman? From the beginning. Okay, so let me start out from the beginning right here. Then we'll just bring it down. So we have Cecilia. She said, "Great info, thank you." And Isaac Yabwa said, "Can I get a lawyer's number?" So she's gonna put information there that you guys can contact her for consultations. Again, like I said, please let's try as much as possible to consult. Not just call like, "Hey, lawyer, I got a quick question." Emmanuel said, "Do you assist with petition for siblings and parents?" So you can answer that one for us. Then we go to the next question.
Yes.
Okay, so you do. Okay, all right. That's easy. Like, let's go to the next one. And this one is coming from Sawin. So Sawin said, "How long does one need?" Why am I having issues? Pulling. Okay, how long does one need to wait to adjust immigration status from green card to citizen? And when they came to the U.S. through marriage, when they come to the U.S. through marriage, so how long does one need to adjust? Go ahead.
Yeah. I think I get the question. It's 3 years. So from 3 years from when you get your permanent residence, okay? So when you come to the US based on marriage, you're supposed to apply for your green card. The date on your green card is your date of your residency. Now, 3 years into that, if you are still married to that same person, you can apply for citizenship. If you are no longer married, you have to wait for 5 years.
Okay. Then Isaac goes like, "Can I change my status from J1 visa to immigrant visa?"
It depends. A J1 is one of those very restrictive visas. If your J1 has a 2-year residency requirement, you cannot. What that means is if you were sponsored by your government or sponsored by an institution to come for an exchange program that required you to go back to your home country, and the requirement is that you be in your home country for 2 years, you cannot adjust status then. However, if you are able to file for a waiver, there's a way in which you have a J1 that has a 2-year residency requirement. You file for that residency requirement to be waived. Residency meaning that you have to go back and be resident in your country for 2 years. You apply for that to be waived, then and only then can you apply to adjust your status. I normally recommend that you change from a J1 to a B1 or J1 to an F1 and then adjust status from then on. But yes, you can adjust only if you have waived that requirement.
Okay. And also, lawyer just put her number on the in the Zoom chat. So in case you want to reach out to her, please call for your consultations. Call, book an appointment with her, and just go ahead and get your consultation. But the number is 682-332-5872. And please, when you call, make sure you're booking for consultation, not just like, "Hey, I got a quick question." because we want them to come again when we need them for your own need and for my need as well. So please let's not abuse the opportunity. Now, Ashley says any okay. Before Ashley, we have George. No, we have Ashley before George. So Ashley says, how do I adopt for a child? How do I adopt a child from Ghana, and what are the steps? Does it fall under status adjustment, or adoption is a whole entity on its own?
So adoption is a whole different ball game of its own, depending
That's what I
on
thought.
whether or not Ghana is part of the, I think it's
The
the
Hague.
Hague. Right. There's specific rules that apply, to the different countries under a particular convention on the adoption rules and laws. Now, and I'll just give you the very, very general way in which it happens. If you want to adopt a child, the first thing is that you have to do a home study here in America. You're supposed to petition there. There are organizations that you petition and you say you want to adopt, and you have already identified the child that you want to adopt. They will they will do a home study, come over to your home, interview you and other members of your household, see how you live, and then write a report. Once that report is written, then, you're also doing concurrently the process of adoption in Ghana, because you have to follow the Ghanaian laws of adoption, for example. So if you are just going to say, this is my sister's child and I took over, it's not going to fly for the purposes of bringing that child over to the US. You are supposed to go through the process where you work with the agency that is recognized by the Department of State, by State Department. You are also going to go through the process of the court and get an official adoption decree. The official adoption decree, USCIS wants to see the court proceedings, meaning the notes, the transcribed notes out of the hearing of the adoption. And then after you have an adoption certificate, you can either proceed to create an amended birth certificate for the child, or adoption certificate, whichever one. Now, when you have that documentation plus the home study, you will then file for the I-130 on behalf of your child. Once it is approved, then it moves over to the National Visa Center, and for the child to go over to the embassy to get their documentation. One other thing that a lot of people struggle to prove is the physical custody requirement. For you to adopt a child, you have to prove that you have been in physical custody of that child 2 years prior or 2 years after the final adoption. And you need to show that the child was living with you. So it's either you're proving that you actually lived in Ghana with that child, you provided for the child, you have pictures to show, you have air tickets to show that for 2 years that child was in your physical custody before you're able to adopt and bring the child over under that guise.
All right, beautiful. So let's go to the next one. The next one, I believe, is from any George Forjo said, any information on getting green card through NIW? I'm not sure what that stands for.
National interest waiver,
Okay.
which is what I spoke about. I'm not sure if you joined us later, but I did go over the national interest waiver, and that it's extensive. You need to be branded as a subject matter expert in your industry, an advanced degree,
Got you.
recognition
Academia.
in your industry, yes, and
Okay.
all of that. If you missed that part, I believe PK, you would have a recording.
It's on.
That way
It's
the
live on
person can
Facebook and YouTube,
reference.
so they can go back and replay it, and everything is there's live on Facebook, YouTube, on Tatap Sengana, and also HRE TV. Yes, thank you. So the next question, we have a question from Ajo Vivian, the veteran actress Vivian Acho. She said, how long does it take to receive your divorce certificate after you file for an uncontested divorce?
So that's not so much an immigration question as it is a question bordering on family law and divorce, depending on the state that you're in. And I can answer that question for Texas because I'm familiar, and New York and Washington D.C. So I don't know what state you're in, Vivian.
She's in
Now,
New York.
she's in New York.
No,
Okay,
I think
the
she's acting
states
for
don't
somebody,
really.
so it doesn't really matter.
All right. So once you file for uncontested divorce, um, in Texas, you will wait for 60 days after your initial petition before you will call the court and pick a date for your divorce hearing. When it's uncontested, that means that the other party has signed to waive service and they are consenting to the divorce, right? Now, and after 60 days, when you call the court and say, it's been 60 days from my initial filing, I have the waiver, can you give me a date? When they give you a date and you go to court, you will be divorced. Once you are divorced, you should be able to get your final decree in a couple of days. Doesn't take long. Just make sure that you call the court records and they would send you over a copy of it.
Okay, thank you. So we're gonna take the next question. Isaac Contact says, how many years should J1 visa holders must be in the U.S. before applying for waiver, and how can I apply for the waiver? I think this is more like a consultation question, right? Because it looks like it needs more information.
Right. I'll need more information to answer that question.
Exactly. Next question. Isaac, please do us a favor and just call her and ask her that question. I mean, book an appointment. Just ask her. She also put in her calendar to book an appointment. So please take advantage of that. Elifundin says, after changing the visa from J1 to F1 within the USA, is it advisable to travel outside the USA, and what are the consequences and remedies?
So if you're traveling outside the USA, you have to make sure that you have a valid visa to return, right? It's always a risk because going out, you have to be admitted on the same F1. So if you have a current I-20, if you're in school and your fees are paid, and your visa is still valid, then you can return. But you have to know that at the border, when you're returning, you will still have to be admitted, and it's to the officer's discretion whether or not to admit you. Sometimes they will want to call the school and verify that you're actually in school. They may want you to show them proof of your transcripts and that you are enrolled and continuing your education. But a mistake that people make, which I want to make sure you're not making that mistake, is that you leave and your visa is expired. Normally they give you a visa for 6 months, but then on your arrival they give you however long your course period is. Say, for example, your initial F1 was given to you in May, but that visa expires in December of that year, but your stay was granted all the way to 2026 because that's how long your program is. If you leave the US, you will still need to get a new visa to come back in. That visa that was giving you from May to December expires in December. Any travel after December, you will not be able to come in. You will have to go back to a US embassy, wherever you are, to obtain entry. Even if you adjusted status from an F1, from a J1 to an F1, mind you, you adjusted. You were not given a visa. You were just adjusting your status. If you go out, you're going to need to get a visa to come back in.
Beautiful. Next question. Can I add to the adoption? I'm not sure what the question means. Can I add to the adoption? Next one. Mommy said, can someone living in US who came with B1, is it B1 or BI? I think it's B1. B1, which has expired, and without
Hello?
Social Security
Can you hear me?
apply for the 10. Lawyer Exton, did you get a question, or you want me to read it again?
I got the question, but somebody was about to say something.
No, that's okay. We're going to call people later for them to ask the questions. We're just reading the questions right now.
All right. Can someone living in the U.S. who came with B1, which has expired and without Social Security, apply for TIN? You can apply for TIN, but the purpose for the TIN is really the crux here. Just applying for a TIN does not fly. Why are you applying for a TIN? You have to show, the reason that you have taxes to pay. You have a business, for example. You have a home you want to buy. You have, something that requires you to pay taxes out of the proceeds that you're going to make. And that is the basis for your application, without which you cannot.
Okay, thank you. Next question. And in the next 2 minutes, we're gonna open up for people to ask any question that they have openly. We're gonna open up with only first 5 people. So the first 5 people that put their hands up. So at this point, you can start putting your emoji hands reaction up, and I will call the first 5 people. Due to the time factor, we have to let her go in the next 17 minutes. So in the next 2 minutes, we'll call up the first 5 to ask the questions, so that Lawyer Extol can also have a time back. Isaac said, how can I change from J1 to F1?
You will apply. There's an application process. To go from J1 to F1, find a school. Find a school that would admit you, give you an admission, and accept to, have you on their I-20. Once that is done, you will file using the change of status. It's not an adjustment, it's a change of status. You're changing from one non-immigrant category to another non-immigrant category. And I believe the form is 539. You'll file that form alongside with your I-20. Most of the time, the school also helps you with the process, but that's usually the way it's done.
Okay, next question. If you bring a divorce letter from Ghana, do you have to notarize it in the US before? That is from Samsung.
Before what?
I think before try to get married to somebody else over here.
No, you don't.
Okay.
You don't. You don't have to notarize it.
Next question. So, guys, I'm trying to read the question so fast because there's a lot of questions that we have to really move to open the mic for people to really ask questions. So it's going to be a quick question. I'm not trying to rush it through. It's just that I have to make sure everybody's question is asked. So, following up on my previous question, does the spouse have to be physically living in the U.S. for 3 years or just married to the U.S. citizen for 3 years? That's a very good question.
Just married to the U.S. citizen for 3 years.
Beautiful. Next question. Daniel says, if you are given a 4-year F1 visa and you complete your program within 2 years, do you have to go back home country or you can wait and exhaust the 4 years? My brother, why are you trying to rush and finish the program? Lawyer, this is a question for you.
You first, with an F1, you can explore the option of OPT and explore whether or not your school will be willing, for you to start your OPT program, even though you finished before. Now, you can finish before, but you're not graduated. And if you're not graduated, I doubt that you will be able to, move on to the OPT side of things. To answer your question directly, you're not going to be out of status as long as it shows that you are in status. Now, whether or not you can work outside of school and exercise other rights beyond your F1, I don't think you can. You will still be limited by that particular status, even though you're done with school, except otherwise you adjust status or change status.
Nice. Last question. I think that's the last question, right? So at this point, please, if you have your emoji hands up, let me see who got their hands up real quick. So nobody has their hands up. So I'm just gonna make it a freestyle right now. Unmute yourself and ask the question. The first 5 people, please. The first 5 people. That's what I'm trying to make it emoji. That way, when your hands are up, if you don't know how to put the emojis up, please go to reaction on your Zoom. When you hit more and you see reactions, click on reactions, you're going to see raise hand. You click on the raise hand, it's going to put your hands up. Then I will call you after the next person. That way it's more transparent. The first 5 people ask the questions, we're done, and we just wrap up the show. So whoever is ready, please unmute yourself and ask your question. Please unmute yourself and ask a question.
Hello.
Yes, Rebecca, we can hear you. Where you talking from? Calling from
Connecticut.
Connecticut. What is your question for Lawyer Excel?
Okay, I think I've sent you a message, but I don't know if you've seen it.
Where did you send it at?
Yeah, my question is, I've overstayed my visa, and my sister, who is a citizen, has filed for me since 2021, 2012 rather, but I haven't, received any positive response from the immigration.
Yeah. So sibling filing for a sibling is the
Hold on. Who is just speaking right now?
Rebecca.
Rebecca, after you were done speaking, somebody spoke. Who was that? Oh, that was Lloyd. I thought somebody else was speaking whilst Rebecca was speaking. Okay. All right. Lawyer, go ahead and take over.
Sure. I was just letting Rebecca know that filing for sibling is a very, very, very long process. Long in the sense that it's a long wait. Because the way in which the US has categorized it is they have made certain visas available per category. And so the backlog for citizens is long. But the best way I can advise you for you to know where you are with regards to your application is to look at your priority date on the receipt notice that was sent to your sister after she filed for you. That priority date, you will look at it in you would look at the visa bulletin on the Department of Homeland Security website to see where they are, because the visa bulletin would tell you what date they are reviewing in terms of applications made for siblings. So you will see that, okay, if she filed in 2012, they are now reviewing applications filed in 2005. It will give you an idea that you have roughly about 5 years to wait before your own date is current, and before then she can file for your green card, because she just had to file for the I-130 alone, not the I-485. Now, in all of this, I'm assuming that your sister did the right thing, because if you haven't heard from USCIS all this while, you have to hope and pray that the silence is not because the application never made its way to where it's supposed to be. And so all the wait from 2012 to now should not be in vain. So make sure that it was rightfully filed. And if it was rightfully filed, you have a receipt number. You not only have a receipt number, you have a priority date, and you can check in the visa bulletin to make sure that, you have an idea of when will be the right time for you to apply for your green card.
Okay, thank you so
All right.
much.
So we're going to call upon our sister Ajo Vivian.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, Vivian.
Yeah, my name is Vivian. I want to know, is it possible to apply for my citizenship whilst I wait for the divorce certificate?
Apply for citizenship while you wait for a divorce?
The divorce certificate.
What's the correlation between the divorce and your citizenship?
Well, I don't know. Just what I'm asking. If I need, maybe if I have to file or fill the forms.
So without me going into so much detail, because the question itself is not as straightforward, and I would not want to go into your personal details for confidentiality reasons, but filing for citizenship, if the citizenship is based on marriage, you cannot file for divorce, because then you're filing for a divorce on the basis of your citizenship application. That's a slippery slope, because even when you go for the swearing in, they will ask the question, are you still married? Now, if you are filing for citizenship on the basis of your 5-year legal residency in the US, even if the residency was based on the marriage, you can still go ahead with a divorce. And it does not impact your citizenship application, because the citizenship is not based on the marriage, it's based on you having been in the US for 5 years. So without knowing much detail about what you're really asking, if that citizenship application is based on marriage, it's a wrong move to file for divorce.
I think I got my answer. I'm okay now. Thank you.
All right. Next person. We got three more. Three more. Next person, please. If your hands are up, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question. If not, you can still go ahead and mute yourself and talk. Gertrude, I think you were trying to ask a question, if I'm not mistaken. If you were trying to ask a question, please unmute yourself and talk. Isaac said, can I change from J1 to H1B?
H1B, Isaac, it seems to me like you are just, looking through and seeing which one will stick on the wall because you've asked J1 to F1. Now you're saying J1 to H1B. Understand the different categories that you're asking about. H1B requires for an employer to employ you. Right? Yeah, you can change again. I don't want to reiterate what I just said. If you have a residency requirement, there are hurdles you have to jump through to make sure that you are actually respecting the condition of the J1, which was to go back to your country. If you don't have any such condition, the only way you can change to an H1B is if you have a job. If an employer employs you and is willing to, file the H1B status on your behalf, then yes, you can.
Isaac is very determined. He's trying all angles as much as possible. Samsung says, no, Daniel asked a very good question. Can you just marry any U.S. citizen at all? Or the person has to make a certain level of income in order to get your green card? But I think that is what, lawyer, you did mention that the purpose of the marriage shouldn't be to get the green card, but the purpose of the marriage should have a bona fide grounds, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
I think
You
they're not
can,
catching the clue yet.
however, if there are certain criminals that cannot petition for a non-immigrant. So if your wife or husband has committed certain crimes, they will not be able to file for you. And this is a good question for a criminal lawyer. But what I know with my limited knowledge in the criminal side of things is if the person is a sexual offender, they cannot petition for you. And if they also have had a series of DUIs, if I'm not mistaken, they cannot petition for you. So apart from that, proving again the bona fide stance of the marriage is definitely very important. But to mention what I just said, a sexual offender, anybody who has, been prosecuted for a sexual offense cannot petition for you.
All right. That is a beautiful
About
answer.
the income, you asked the question about income. There are instances where the U.S. citizen does not make any money or does not make enough money, and they will need a co-sponsor to, support them in their application. So the fact that the U.S. citizen spouse does not make any money does not disqualify them. So.
Okay. I do have a very good question for you from Facebook. So on Facebook, Governor from Connecticut said great job. They really love the show. Kumasi Nyami said, please share the show. And Governor comes back and says that he knows I always sleep in the couch. I thought that was supposed to be an answer or a question for my spouse to tell where I sleep in the house, maybe during interview. Then I don't know if I should call him a comic social media influencer or a serious social media commentator. Mark Graham, upon K. Francis, said, can I sue someone in the US, Capito? So he's actually a vlogger in Italy, one of the biggest vloggers in Europe, and also one of the ambassadors for Tatapsen. And he wants to know, can he sue somebody in the US whilst he's in Italy?
If the person is based in the US, yes, you can. You will be suing in federal court because you yourself are not based in the US, so you're going to be considered foreign. But suing by itself in federal court needs to meet certain standards and certain elements. And so the question, without knowing much detail, is yes, but federal court will require, certain, like, what is the cause of action, proving the cause of action and the amount of damages that the blogger is hoping to recover as a result of the wrong that was done to him.
Do you know the funny side of the story? That's his brother-in-law. Anyways, that was his brother-in-law. He's trying to sue you. It's an ongoing beef for a very long time. So trust me, I don't think any lawyer or court will be able to deal with this case. But yes, so I think if nobody has anything to ask on Zoom, or if we have exhausted our questions, because I believe that her presentation was so vivid and clear to the extent that everything kind of makes sense. So if there's nothing else to ask, I'm gonna give 1 minute because we have 2 minutes to wrap up the show. Asantua comes up with a question, and IP13 also comes up with a question. So let's go with IP13 first. It says, please, what do you think about Donald Trump's proposed draconian immigration policy when elected in office come 2024? Yes, that's a very good question.
I have no thoughts about that. That's politics, and that's an area that I don't very into.
Thank you. All right. Asantua says, do you need to have your immigration documentation intact before you take someone to court?
No, you don't. You don't need to have to be a permanent resident before you take a person to court. And this is an area that a lot of the times that immigrants will, suffer abuse and be silent just because they feel that they don't have their paperwork to go to court. Hardly will the question be, what is your legal status? However, you will need to have documentation to identify yourself. So you cannot show up in the courtroom and not have an ID card or anything to even properly identify that you are the person that is, suing, or the person that is bringing the case. So yeah, you need proper documentation to identify yourself. You don't need proper immigration documentation before you can take a person to court.
Okay. That's beautiful. Well, at this point, I'm going to call upon Director David for his sign-out messages to you. Then you just give us your final words after he's done. Director David, any sign-out message before she gives us her final message before we let her go?
Hello? Hello?
Yes, hello?
Yeah, I want to ask a question.
Go ahead, please.
What about if you are married to a citizen and you didn't come in with a visa, but you are married with to a citizen? Is it possible that you can file and you have your status?
If you didn't come in with a visa, how did you come in?
Well, people cross the border.
All right. So in that case, yes, but there is a waiver that needs to be filed on the person's behalf because they were not admitted in the U.S. And when you are not admitted in the U.S., a waiver needs to be filed on your behalf. Now, this was a law that Obama passed when he was in power that requires, once the waiver is filed and it is approved, you would then travel out to your state country and obtain the visa to come back in as an immigrant.
Okay.
Okay. Whilst you are married to the citizen,
Correct.
you can go back to your country and acquire visa to come in.
After, let me say this, let me make sure that I'm clear there.
Okay.
Once your citizen spouse files for you, part of the filing is including a waiver application, a waiver of inadmissibility because you were never admitted. Before Obama, people were required to go back to their home country and go wait indefinitely for the application to be approved and before they were able to return with their immigrant visa upon approval. The new law Obama passed require you to stay in America, file the waiver. If it is approved, then you can then go back to your country. We already, the embassy is scheduling a date for you to pick up that visa and come back in.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Dr. David.
Hello.
Yes, your final send a message for her so that she can give us she can wrap up and give us a summary.
Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, and please, can you file for asylum after 1 year? And what are some of the requirements that you need to file for asylum after 1 year? Thank you.
You can file for asylum after 1 year. However, you will have to prove why you filed after 1 year. Now, your chances would greatly reduce when you're filing for asylum after 1 year, because the presumption is that you really do not have a situation of fear, or you were not persecuted in the past, or likelihood of future persecution. However, you can file if you can prove that the circumstances in your home country changed after the 1 year period within which you were supposed to file. You can also prove that you were not of a good mental capacity based on the past persecution, and that you were receiving treatment, and only after 1 year were you in a position to apply. So just applying after that 1 year without any explanation of a changed circumstances will greatly reduce your chances of your asylum application getting approved.
All right. Thank you. Richard, I see that you messaged me that you have a question. Please don't mute yourself and ask a question. You're going to be our last question for the day.
I gotta go.
Okay,
right,
you have
thank
to.
you. Last,
All right. Well, Richard, she says she has to go. So we will have to respect that.
That's fine. Let me take Richard's question.
Okay.
Thank you so much. All right, so I got married, right? And after getting married, my wife started making the whole thing very complicated, moving elsewhere, having a different guy in her life. So they both got pregnant. So in the case, she wasn't willing to support the whole thing as we started off. So I filed, a lawyer advised me to go in for divorce. So the divorce is in now. So now the situation is, after I filed for divorce, now they're asking me that my work authorization will be expiring by December ending. So in this case, what should I do?
Unfortunately, Richard, there's not much you can do. Unfortunately, there's not much you can do, because the marriage, you've filed for divorce. In other words, the marriage is over, and that was the basis of it. If she's not willing to go forward with, petitioning, again, she's not willing is number one. Number two, you file for a divorce. The basis on which the marriage, the green card was given, the work permit was given, has been taken away. At that point, you have closed the door to that option. VAWA would have extended the likelihood of you continuously renewing your green card. But if you're saying that she has moved on with another guy, that by itself is not an abuse. That by itself does not show any physical or verbal abuse. So I would say, it's safe to say that case is closed. Explore other options to get your adjustment of status.
All right. Thank you very much. Again, if you want any further details or information, please consult lawyer Excel. She has a number out there, and also her calendar. Please make sure you book for some consultation. Dr. David, please send a message so that she can give us.
Can we have a number, please?
She already put it on there. We're going to repeat the number again. So, but I need.
Thank you.
Yes.
The best way to reach me is to click on that link and schedule a free consultation in the legal clinic. That would be the best option.
And please, where is the link? Some of us joined very late. If you can please.
I'm going to put it back again. I'm going to copy it and put it back. I'm
Okay,
gonna copy and
thank
put it
you.
back. No problem.
Thank you.
Oh, Dr. David already did. But Dr. David, over to you.
Attorney Ixtel, thank you so much for making the time. Clearly, your responses are solving a great problem in our community. PK, again, thanks for heading up. I think my closing remarks are, again, thank you making the time. We know for a retainer, this is not cheap, but I think you've answered a lot of questions, and we're grateful. Just thank you. I hope to see you soon. Thanks.
Thank you, David. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate
No problem.
and I love the time spent.
Any final message for us? Anything you want to wrap up or clarify before you go?
Just keep your. I just want to encourage everyone that knowledge is power. Just because you heard it in the vineyard does not mean that it's true. We have a lot of this information that is available online. If you're facing a situation, just do some good and read. If reading is such a challenge for you, find someone whom you trust and let them get the information. So even if you have a lawyer, you're not just walking blind with regards to something as important as your legal status in a country far away from home.
Thank you so much for this beautiful presentation, beautiful knowledge, and also awesome and incredible information that you have just showered on us. We are so grateful on behalf of TATUPSEND, Time with TATUPSEND. We are very grateful. And also on behalf of our viewers, our dedicated and committed viewers, thank you so much for coming, Lawyer Ixtel, and we hope to have you again in the future for different topics and also different endeavors. And also big thanks to Lawyer Annette. She was on the whole time, listening and also enjoying the show. Thank you for making time out of your busy schedule and coming, and we are forever grateful. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. At this point, we draw the curtains of our legal education, and our viewers on Facebook and YouTube. We are going to be transitioning into the Q&A session with TATUPSEND. So anybody or everyone that has issues with sending money back home or have some good stuff to say about TATUPSEND, or even concerning the Christmas bonuses, not bonuses, but the bonanzas, and also the stuff that we get, the giveaways. Please, this is the time for us to have a good time and talk about this. And again, once again, thank you all for joining us on Facebook and YouTube, and we will meet again next week, same time.